All right. Next Patreon request on the list is from Tom Hibbert, who asked me to do a three-way crossover between Darkman, The Shadow, and Dracula. So, as always, if you guys would like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link in the description box below. Head on over to my Patreon, hit the third tier. That'll allow you access to do so. But other than that, let's get started with the video. So the story begins with Darkman, who's like, this would be, I guess you could say, like, after the trilogy, I guess, and in Westlake, Peyton Westlake is basically still being the dark avenging hero of the city, but he's still like crying for his love, Julie, who is now she's basically, like, he's noticed as he's been tailing her for a while, she's gotten weaker, like she's gotten like weaker and paler and things like that, and she's also avoiding direct sunlight. But he's worried. He's like, I'm a doctor. I know something's wrong with her. She was always healthy, but I need to go check on her. So one night he decides, I know I said I'd stay out of her life, but Jesus, she's sick. She's very clearly sick. So one night he goes to Julie's apartment to, at least confront her and talk to her and be like, hey, I need to know what's wrong with you. But as he's about to like go into her apartment, he sees another figure climb into the window, and he's like, oh shit. So he comes barging in through the window, and immediately, like, a pair of guns get drawn on him, and he gets fired at. Peyton ducks, and he's like, I don't know who you are, but you are leaving Julie alone. She's, I don't know what you've done to her, but I'm gonna kill you. And the voice replies back, so you're Peyton Westlake, the so-called Darkman. I must admit, I feel like I'm getting ripped off. And Peyton's like, who the hell are you? Like, Darkman's like, who the fuck are you? And he's like, don't you know? I know you. And only the Shadow knows. So the Shadow comes busting out of the darkness. The two get into the fight. And here's the thing. Darkman is, like, battling the Shadow, and he's like, the Shadow? I thought he was, like, an urban legend. That's how he kind of, like, in this story, the Shadow is basically treated like an urban myth. So he and the Shadow get in this fight, and he's like, I don't know where Julie is in this apartment. Is she even here tonight? But I don't know what the Shadow wants with her, but I'm not letting her him get close to her. So he's like, why do you want Julie? What is the deal here? And the Shadow's like, you don't know what's going on, do you? Like, you basically have been, you protect this city, but the fact of the matter is you kind of fixated on one person, whereas I was seeing the bigger picture, and you don't understand. And he's like, understand what? And that's when he sees, like, the Shadow, like, stops him during the fight and is like, look, like, do you notice anything in the apartment? He's like, yeah, Julie's not here. And he's like, precisely. And he's like, so she's late, maybe she's out doing something. And he's like, at like midnight, past midnight, like, where it's like, come on, man. So the Shadow is like, there is a conspiracy I've been following across the nation, and it's come to your city. This conspiracy, we're in the middle. I'm fighting a secret invasion. I'm fighting a secret war right now. My network and I, and it would be helpful, instead of fighting you, Dr. Westlake, it would be more important if you worked with me than against me. So Darkman is like, all right, fine. Like, what's the deal? Like, what's going on? And he goes, tell me, Dr. Westlake, do you believe in vampires? So the Shadow and Darkman leave, and Cranston basically explains to Darkman, like Shadow explains to Darkman. So recently, for the past, like, 6 months, my network has been monitoring a series of strange occurrences across the U.S. Usually, at first, we thought it was all, like, disconnected and whatnot, and there really wasn't much to go on. There really wasn't anything that could really connect them. But then we kind of noticed it's more like a disease. And this disease, as much as we'd want to refuse it, it's very clear that this is something, vampiric. And Darkman's like, look, I'm a man of science, and I've seen some wild shit, but I've never seen anything like vampires, okay? This is, like, And he's like, and you thought I didn't exist, and yet here I am. And Darkman is like, fine, how can you, like, I'm willing to, to believe anything. So show me what you have. So instead, literally the Shadow, like, reaches into Darkman's mind and, like, explains to him more of what's going on. And he's showing, like, images of his network battling vampires. And he basically explains, like, what, the mastermind behind this vampire takeover of our country is, it's been going on for a while now. And we suspect your lover, Julie, is a part of this. Like, she's been made unwilling a part of this. And as, like, Shadow's going through his mind, he sees all, like, the pain and agony that Westlake's been through, and he's like, I see, like, Cranston basically, like, Lamont Cranston basically makes note that, like, I see a lot of all this pain and anger. I see it in myself. But Westlake is ruled by his emotions, where I rule them. And eventually, like, Westlake's like, get out! Like, get out of my head! So Shadow and Cranston, Shadow and Darkman, they talk, and Darkman demands, you keep saying, like, there's this big, threat. Like, you say, like, there's this big enemy behind us. He's like, and he's like, he brings Darkman to one of his HQs and shows, like, a piece of his network. And Darkman is like, this is amazing. Like, how is this possible? Like, you've built an entire network of people. This must have taken ages. And he's like, it did. And he's like, but you have to be, like, almost 100, man. And he's like, who's to say I'm not? And like, Darkman still, and he's like, it's kind of funny. You have so much disbelief, but you're a man who was burned to death in a mob hit, and you survive and now possess strength. You can go out and you can mimic people. How is this any different? And Darkman's like, okay, you got to cut the shit. Even if I'm willing to believe vampires, you're fighting a secret war with vampires. You haven't told me the mastermind's name. And that's when someone in his, like, base says, oh, you know him. Like, you've made mockery of him in movies and comic books and things, but we'll tell you right now, Dracula lives. And that's when one of the agents shows he's a vampire and, like, tries to go at them. Darkman, like, grabs him and, like, rips his arms off, and a stake goes through him from Shadow. And he's like, Darkman's like, you have got to be kidding me. Dracula's real? And he's like, yeah. And we think he's hiding somewhere in your city, and he's probably made Julie a bride of his. And at that point, Darkman's like, I'll join you, Shadow. I still don't believe it's Dracula behind all this. Maybe it's someone pretending to be Dracula, making, like, a scientific virus or something. Because he's refusing to believe that he's fighting real vampires. Darkman's trying to find, like, a scientific explanation. But he's like, if Julie's in danger, I'll go with you. I'll team up with you. So the two travel to, like, the Shadow and his other agents. He's, like, trying to vet them and be like, we got to make sure anyone else is not infected, because I guarantee you Dracula's probably heard all this. But then they have the other sources and reveal that that Dracula's attending a party at the mayor's. So Darkman puts on a mask to make himself look like one of the guests they knock out one of the guests, and he goes there, and they attend the party, and Cranston takes on his Kent Allard identity, and the two of them go in, and he's like, I feel like Bruce Wayne. You know that guy? Wait, is he real? So they go in, and they're, like, schlumming it up. They're trying to be, like, rich billionaires, trying to back the mayor's next election. And that's when the mayor comes in. He's like, our city's moving forward into a bold new direction. We will find, we will find a great new eternal era of our country. And that's with the help of our backer, Lord Vlad, Mr. Vlad Tepes. And Dracula walks in, and Darkman is just like, there is no way that is fucking Dracula. And Dracula gives a speech, and he's like, I have been bad, for decades I have been seen myself as a warrior, a conqueror, and there's no better prize than your country. For months I have been installing all of this empire, and I believe your city will be the new capital of our undead nation. And I must admit, the blood's a little thin tonight, so how about we get some fresh blood in here, Mr. Cranston and Mr. West and Dr. Westlake. And that's when, like, Shadow notes, he's like, Westlake, look at the mirror, and they only see their reflection, and they're like, oh shit. So the whole room's filled with vampires, so they have to, like, fight their way past these vampires. Even Dracula himself jumps in, and he's like, my secret war with the great Shadow has come face to face. And look, you brought the great Darkman with you. So Dracula fights both of them, and it's very clear. Like, Darkman really realizes this is really Dracula. Like, it's not a guy pretending to be him. That's actually him. And that's when he gets attacked by Julie, who's been made into a vampire. So he has to, like, pin her down, and actually Shadow tries to kill her. He's like, no! He, like, punches him. The two have to escape because they're overrun, excuse me. And they have to fall back. Shadow's like, I had a chance to kill her. And he's like, don't you understand? If we can, didn't you ever read the fucking book, you asshole? Like, Westlake explains, if we kill Dracula, we can save everyone else's soul. And he's like, Shadow's like, you don't know that. I've been killing these vampires who've infected my network. And, this whole love thing you have is a weakness. And he's like, is that what you had? Mm-hmm. What was her name? Who'd you give up? Or in your little war? And he goes, her name was Margot Lane. And yeah, he's like, if we can kill Dracula before he can, expand his vampire, create this vampire nation, we can end this. So Dracula, Darkman and Shadow, put aside their differences and hunt down Dracula, who's now moved, because his whole plan, they find out, is that his scheme is that the mayor's trying to bring the president of the United States to a mayoral dinner so Dracula can turn him and then basically make him like a puppet for the rest of the nation. And, Dracula can be the secret ruler of America that's slowly becoming more vampiric. So Darkman and the Shadow go back to the mayor, they return to the mayor's house. They have to fight their way through multiple vampires. Julie once again attacks him, and even like Peyton, he can make you beautiful again. Like, your face can be made whole. Just submit to Lord Dracula, and we can be together again. You can be eternal. You can have your face again. And he's like, I would love nothing more than to be with you again, my love, but I can't. So he just knocks her out again. And that's when Dracula arrives, this time, like, decked out in armor and sword in hand. And he's like, I must thank you, gentlemen. It's been so long since I've had a proper fight. So bring it. So immediately Shadow, Dracula, and Darkman get into a fight. Dracula tries to attack both Darkman and the Shadow mentally. Like, he's like, stop. And, like, come here. He's, like, trying to, like, beckon them to him. And immediately the Shadow's like, oh, you done fucked up now. And he's like, you've had centuries to, like, meddle with the minds of others, but the Shadow knows what you fear, Vlad. And so there's a mind war going on, and Dracula, Darkman, and the Shadow are, like, battling in their heads. And the Shadow, like, begins to, like, overwhelm Dracula because he's getting hit with, like, his time as, like, being imprisoned in the Turkish Empire as a boy, being attacked by his own people, and also, like, being killed by Van Helsing. And meanwhile, he's trying to also attack Westlake in his head, Peyton in his head, and Darkman is just overwhelming him with the rage and anger he feels, to the point where Dracula's like being beaten down. And that's when, like, Darkman and Shadow just come in, they grab, like, a chair, break it off, and make him into stakes, just double impale him through the chest, thereby killing him again. But in typical fashion, because Darkman's just full-on angry, he's like, this is what you did to my love. Grabs his sword and just decapitates Dracula, then picks up his head, throws it on the ground, and stomps it, and he's just like, it's dead. So everyone is freed from Dracula's hold, and the Shadow and Darkman like sink back into the darkness, and they're like, they'll be fine. It'll probably feel like a nightmare to them, but all they'll need is some serious blood transfusion. But we managed to save your love, this city, and the whole nation. There is you've proven to be a valuable ally, Darkman, and I'd be happy to have you in my network. And Darkman's like, tempting, but I'd prefer to work alone. And he's like, fair enough, but if you ever need me, call on me. So they part ways, and Darkman, looks over his love one more time before slinking back into the darkness himself. So there you go, guys. That is pretty much the Shadow Darkman Dracula crossover. This is something, actually, it's kind of funny, because this Dynamite could literally do this. Yet Dynamite Comics could literally make this. And if any writers out there from Dynamite Comics are listening, I'm just saying, I'm available. I'll write it. Pretty cheap, too. Anyway, so once again, I'd like to thank Tom Hibbert for this Patreon request and continued patronage. And like I said before, if you guys would like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link in the description box below. Head on over to my Patreon and hit the 3rd tier. That'll allow you access to do so. But other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.